Okay, Valentine's Day. It's coming up soon.
Yeah.
And I bet you're thinking roses, chocolates,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
all
Whole thing.
the pressure to be
Yeah,
romantic.
for sure.
But on this deep dive, we are going to go deeper.
Okay.
We're going to go past the cliches. We're going to uncover some surprising history
Ooh.
of Valentine's Day,
Okay.
how it's evolved, how it's celebrated, all that good stuff.
I am ready.
So our source material is this podcast called Valentine's Day, Lover's Day, or Fornicator's Day.
Interesting title.
Yeah, very intriguing, right?
Mm.
So, yeah, we'll be talking about both sides of that. But the goal here is to understand Valentine's Day beyond just those cliches, right?
Yeah, I think we all need that sometime.
We all need it. All right, so let's jump right in.
Let's go.
So this podcast, it talks about how Valentine's Day, get this, goes all the way back to ancient Rome.
Seriously.
I know, right?
Wow.
You would not think that.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I guess it makes sense when you think about it. Like, a lot of our holidays have these really deep historical roots that we don't even realize.
right,
Yeah, we kind of just take them for granted.
absolutely.
So yeah, I'm curious to hear about how it went from whatever it was in ancient Rome to what it is today.
Yeah, it's a big leap, right?
Yeah.
So it started with, pagan festivals, and then, get this, the execution of a saint,
Whoa.
Valentine, hence Valentine's Day.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. And now it's this modern day celebration of love, but maybe something else too, according to this podcast.
Okay, well, now I really want to know more.
Well, stay tuned because we're going to get into that.
All right.
But, it is interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
How holidays evolve
It really is.
over time.
Yeah.
Like they reflect, how our values have changed. Like
Exactly.
what was important back then is not necessarily
Not the same anymore.
important now.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
we've redefined things.
Yeah, and like social norms too, like how we view relationships and all that.
Right, exactly.
All of that's going to play into it.
It makes sense.
Okay.
So we've got this like contrast, right?
Okay.
We've got, on the one hand, the Lover's Day, right? The
Oh.
romantic dinners, the cards,
Mhm.
the roses,
Yeah.
like that whole thing.
For sure.
Which, as commercialized as it is, it still kind of speaks to like this human need to express affection,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, for sure. Like, no matter how cliche it might seem, there's something about those gestures that, I don't know, makes people feel good. It's like a way of saying, hey, you're special to me,
Absolutely.
even if it's through a store-bought card.
Exactly.
But I will say, the podcast does make a point about whether those gestures always work.
Yeah, good point.
Like, do they always resonate? Or are there times when they feel forced or maybe just a little outdated? Like, they don't really fit with how we relate to each other today.
Right. It's like, are we just going through the motions?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
is it really genuine?
Totally. That's a really good question to think about.
It is. And speaking of like not being genuine,
Oh, here we go.
we have to talk about the other side of this.
All right, let's do it.
So the podcast talks about like Fornicator's Day.
Okay, now we're getting to the juicy stuff.
Yeah, right. So they bring up like Valentine's Day parties
Mm-hmm.
and how, those parties often had this reputation
Okay.
for being about casual hookups more than, like romance and commitment.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what do you think fuels this like more passionate side of the holiday? What do you think it is?
Well, you can't ignore the commercialization of it all, right? Like, we are bombarded with ads for lingerie and weekend getaways.
Yeah.
It's like everything is about ramping up the romance,
Right.
or maybe just the physical attraction, if we're being honest.
Right.
So it makes you wonder, right? Like, do those messages combined with, how our ideas about relationships and intimacy have changed, have they contributed to this whole, like, alternative Valentine's Day?
It's a good question because, things have changed a lot.
They really have.
Like how we date, how
Yeah.
we view relationships.
Exactly.
Like all that's very different.
For sure.
So it makes you think, right? Like, is Valentine's Day keeping up?
Yeah. Is it adapting? Or is it stuck in the past?
Right. Exactly.
That's a good question.
Yeah. And then there's a whole societal pressure thing too, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, do people feel obligated to conform to this, like, romantic ideal on Valentine's Day, even if they're single or,
Right.
or maybe they're just not interested in, like, a traditional relationship?
Yeah, like, do you have to be coupled up to participate?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Or does Valentine's Day actually give people, like, the freedom
Okay.
to explore different kinds of connections?
Now that's an interesting thought. Like, maybe it can be liberating in a way?
Right, like maybe it's permission to step outside those traditional boxes
Right.
and kind of, define things for
Mm.
yourself.
Yeah, like, do your own thing.
Exactly. And this is where the podcast gets really interesting because they start sharing personal stories from listeners,
Oh, I love that.
right, about their Valentine's Day experiences.
Okay.
And they're all different.
Mm-hmm.
Some are heartwarming, some are funny, some are kind of cringy.
I can imagine.
But it shows you, like, how diverse those experiences can be.
Yeah, for sure.
And it all comes down to, individual perspectives, right?
Right.
And
Exactly.
the dynamics of, like, your own relationships.
Yeah, totally. And it reminds you that Valentine's Day isn't one size fits all.
Right. It's not just about, the marketing campaigns and the social media posts.
Mm.
There are real people
Yeah.
with their own unique ways of approaching this holiday.
Absolutely. And it's not just about buying into the hype or feeling like you have to conform.
Right.
It's about finding what feels authentic and meaningful for you.
Exactly. So instead of just accepting these, like, pre-packaged notions of Lover's Day or Fornicator's Day,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we should be asking ourselves, what does Valentine's Day mean to me?
That's a good question. I like
A
that.
powerful question.
Yeah.
And it leads us to another part of this podcast that I found really intriguing, which is they brought in a relationship expert
Oh, wow.
to weigh in on this whole debate.
Okay.
Like, what is the true meaning of Valentine's Day?
Right.
So I'm really curious to hear what they have to say.
Me too. And maybe we can challenge some of our own assumptions along the way.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so their take, I think you'll find it pretty insightful. They really emphasize that instead of getting stuck in these labels,
Mm-hmm.
like Lover's Day, Fornicator's Day,
Yeah.
we should be focusing on the quality of our relationships
Okay.
and how we choose to express, love and connection
Right.
all year round,
Yeah.
not just on Valentine's Day.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not about, forcing yourself into this mold or
Mhm.
feeling pressure to perform a certain type of romance.
Yeah, totally. It's got to be genuine.
Got to be genuine.
Yeah.
It's about approaching your relationships with intention
Right.
and authenticity.
And that's true, like whether it's Valentine's Day or any other day.
Exactly. And the expert also talked about communication,
Oh, that's key.
especially if you're in a relationship.
Yeah.
Like actually talking to your partner
Mm-hmm.
about your expectations for Valentine's Day
Yeah.
can really help prevent misunderstandings.
Absolutely. Get it out in the open.
Right. And make sure that both people feel loved and appreciated.
Yeah.
It's not about, dictating how the day should go,
right.
but more about, like, creating a shared experience.
Yeah, exactly. Something that works for both of you.
Right, exactly.
It's about that connection.
It's about the connection.
Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes we get so caught up in the pressure,
Yeah, for sure.
the expectations from, society,
Yeah.
the media,
All of that.
that we forget to actually check in with ourselves
Oh, yeah.
and our partners.
Totally. Like, what do we actually want?
Exactly. So maybe the real gift of Valentine's Day isn't about the roses or the chocolates.
Okay.
It's the opportunity to have those real conversations
Mm-hmm.
and, to deepen our connections with the people that we care about.
I love that.
Right. It's a good reminder.
It is. It's like shifting the focus away from all the superficial stuff
Mm-hmm.
and back to what really matters.
Exactly. To the heart of it all.
Yeah.
This is really making me think about Valentine's Day differently.
Me too.
Like, I'm seeing it less as a Hallmark holiday
Mm-hmm.
and more as like a blank canvas
Yeah.
where we can define love and connection for ourselves.
I like that analogy. Like, you get to paint your own picture.
Exactly.
And, it makes me think we could do a whole other deep dive just on the commercial side of Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, the amount of money people spend on gifts and all that is crazy.
It's mind-boggling.
It really is.
Yeah, we should definitely do that.
Okay, noted.
All right, so we've uncovered some history here.
Yeah.
We've explored the different arguments about what Valentine's Day really means.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about commercialization, societal pressures,
For sure.
all that good stuff.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is, but there's still more.
Oh, there's more.
There's more.
Okay, I'm ready.
So in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to go deeper into those personal stories from the podcast.
Okay.
See how real people are kind of challenging the traditional ideas of Valentine's Day.
I'm intrigued.
We'll also get into some more insights from that relationship expert.
Right.
See how their perspective can help us navigate this, often contradictory holiday.
Sounds good.
This is turning out to be a way more thought-provoking deep dive than I ever imagined.
Me too.
And for all of you listening, I encourage you to come along on this journey with us.
Yeah, come on.
You might be surprised at what you learn about yourself
Definitely.
and the people that you love.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll be right back with more after a quick break.
Sounds good. So we've talked about like the big picture of Valentine's Day, the history, the arguments.
Right.
But I always find the real life stories
Oh, yeah.
to be the most interesting.
You always say that.
I do, don't I?
You do.
Okay, so what kind of personal experiences did this podcast uncover? And like, how do they fit into this whole conversation?
Yeah.
Well, there was one story that really stuck with me
Okay.
about this woman who basically flipped the script on Valentine's Day.
What do you mean?
So instead of waiting for her partner to do something romantic, she surprised him with a weekend getaway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it wasn't just any getaway. It was all planned around his hobbies, the things he loved.
That's so thoughtful.
It really was. And it turned out to be much more meaningful for both of them.
I bet.
Because it showed, like, real thoughtfulness and understanding.
It wasn't just like buying a generic gift.
Exactly. It was personal.
Right. It was about him.
Yeah. So it kind of challenges that whole idea that Valentine's Day has to be about, traditional romantic tropes.
Right.
It can be about showing love and appreciation in a way that really connects with your partner.
Yeah, even if it means breaking with tradition.
Exactly.
So what other stories did they share?
Well, on the opposite end of the spectrum,
Okay.
there was this single guy who decided to reclaim Valentine's Day as a celebration of self-love.
Interesting.
Yeah, he booked himself a spa day,
Oh, nice.
treated himself to a fancy dinner, just spent the whole day doing things he enjoyed.
That's awesome.
It is, right?
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that Valentine's Day doesn't have to be about romantic love.
Right.
It can be about celebrating all forms of love, including the love we have for ourselves.
Yeah, that's such an important message.
Yes, it is.
Especially in a world that, puts so much emphasis on romantic relationships.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, it's okay to be single.
Right.
And to celebrate yourself.
Exactly. It's like, you are enough.
You are enough.
So it seems like these personal stories really highlight that there's no one right way to approach Valentine's Day. It's all about, finding what feels authentic and meaningful to you.
Exactly. It's about, like, personal choice.
Yeah. And those choices are influenced by so many things.
Like what?
Well, your values, your cultural background, your relationship status, even your past experiences.
Right. It all plays a role.
It does. So it makes sense that Valentine's Day can be such a mixed bag of emotions for people.
Yeah, totally.
Some love it, some hate it,
Yeah.
some are indifferent.
Right.
It's all over the map.
Okay, so we've talked about those personal experiences. But you mentioned earlier that the podcast also had an expert weigh in on all this.
I did.
Like a relationship expert.
Yeah. What did they have to say about this whole Lover's Day versus Fornicator's Day debate?
Right. I'm really curious to hear their perspective.
Well, they said something that I thought was really insightful.
Okay.
They said that instead of getting caught up in these labels, Lover's Day, Fornicator's Day,
Right.
we should be focusing on the quality of our relationships
Yeah.
and how we choose to express love and connection,
Right.
not just on Valentine's Day, but throughout the year.
Yeah, like it's about the bigger picture.
Exactly. It's not about performing a certain kind of romance just because it's February 14th.
Right. It's about being intentional in your relationships.
Yeah, and being authentic, showing up as your true self.
I like that.
And the expert also stressed the importance of communication.
Oh, yeah. Communication's key.
It really is, especially if you're in a relationship. Like, talk to your partner about what you want for Valentine's Day.
Right.
It can prevent so many misunderstandings and hurt feelings.
Absolutely. It's about being on the same page.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not about dictating how the day should go, but more about creating a shared experience that honors your unique connection.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So sometimes we get so caught up in all the external pressure.
The expectations.
Yeah, all of that.
That we forget to actually check in with ourselves and our partners.
Right, exactly. Like, what do we actually want?
What really matters.
Yeah. So maybe the real gift of Valentine's Day isn't the material stuff. It's the opportunity to have those honest conversations.
Right.
And really deepen our connections.
I love that. It's such a good reminder.
It is.
This whole deep dive has really shifted my perspective on Valentine's Day.
Me too. It's more than just a Hallmark holiday.
Yeah, it's like a blank canvas where we can define love and connection for ourselves.
Exactly. And you know what? This whole conversation about commercialization.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole other deep dive we could do.
We definitely need to do that.
The amount of money spent on Valentine's Day is mind-blowing.
It really is.
Like the floral industry, the chocolate companies, the jewelry stores.
All raking it in.
They are. But maybe that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, let's save that for later.
Okay, so to recap, we've talked about the origins of Valentine's Day, the different arguments about its meaning, the influence of commercialization, societal pressures, all of that.
Right. And most importantly, we've heard from real people.
Yes.
About their own unique experiences.
Which reminds us that Valentine's Day can be celebrated in so many ways. It's not about conforming to a single ideal.
Right.
It's about embracing the complexity and finding what resonates with you.
I like that. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what are some final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
What should they keep in mind as they head into their own Valentine's Day celebrations? I think what strikes me after all this is how Valentine's Day, it's like a mirror, you know?
Okay.
Reflecting back at us how we view love and relationships, like as a society and personally, like even consumerism.
Yeah, it's not just a fun little holiday.
No, it's not.
It's way deeper than that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
It really makes you think about that question we talked about.
Which one?
What does Valentine's Day mean to me?
Oh, yeah.
Like it makes you look at your own beliefs, your expectations.
Yeah, like how do you want to be a part of all this?
Exactly.
And, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer.
That's true.
It's kind of freeing, right?
Yeah, but also maybe a little scary.
I guess so.
Because then you have to decide.
Make a choice.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the beauty lies, right? Like you get to choose. Create your own Valentine's Day.
Yeah, one that feels right for you.
Exactly.
And for the people you care about.
So instead of getting caught up in all the marketing.
Or feeling like you have to do certain things.
Yeah, like buy this, do that.
Okay.
It's about taking back the day.
Okay.
Making it your own.
I like that.
Like make it meaningful to you.
Whether it's, a romantic date.
Yeah.
Or just a chill night with friends.
Or even just like taking care of yourself.
Right, exactly.
Well, all good.
As long as it feels genuine, this has been eye-opening.
For real.
Like, I'm going to go into Valentine's Day this year
Yeah.
with a totally different mindset.
I love that.
More open.
Yeah.
More curious.
And who knows, maybe you'll surprise yourself.
Maybe I will.
With how you celebrate.
Yeah. And you know what?
What?
We should remember that Valentine's Day doesn't have to be just one day.
Right.
It's like...
It's a feeling.
It's a feeling, yeah.
A way of being.
That we can, carry with us.
All year.
Yeah, all year.
That's beautiful.
It is.
Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with me.
Of course.
Always a pleasure.
We really got into it.
We did.
Learned a lot.
Yeah. Valentine's Day is more complicated than it seems.
It is.
But in a good way, I think.
I agree.
All right. Well, for everyone listening, keep exploring.
Yeah.
Ask those tough questions. Figure out what Valentine's Day means to you.
And happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day.